our next speaker. So we have Charlotte Kennet with us, which is so exciting. So to give a little bit of background, Charlotte is a marketing leader who spent her career proving the power of community and customer voices. What began with running a fan club in her early 20s grew into a 14-year journey building customer and community-led functions that drive measurable impact. Recognized as one of the top 22 B2B marketing innovators and winner of multiple industry awards, including CMX, Gainsight, and Covio, Charlotte is most energized when bringing people together, sparking collaboration, and turning ideas into impact. After leading a global CX transformation for automation leader Blue Prism and operationalizing community marketing at Reddit, Charlotte is now a marketing transformation coach, consultant, where she supports global organizations in rethinking their approach to marketing. So before I let Charlotte take it away, just want to remind everybody in the chat, please feel free to use the Q&A feature below if you have questions throughout, and we will leave time at the end for all of your questions. And now I'm going to hand over the mic to you, Charlotte. So please take it away.
Hello, thank you so much for the introduction, Tally, and hi to everybody. I hope that you still have a bit of energy left. I know that it's the end of this 24-hour marathon of community leadership and community building. So hopefully the bright colors of my slides are going to keep you awake. So obviously loads of conversations around where does community sit and a bit of an identity crisis happening here and where should it, which function should it be in, etc., etc. And I just kind of want to start about maybe challenging and putting a bit of thought in your brains around maybe it's not about where community should sit within the business, but more around how can it really help those transformation conversations and really try and advocate for more human and consumer-led conversations within and across functions. So I'm going to obviously, spoiler with the name of the title, obviously focus on marketing today. So marketing is where I've spent most of my career thus far. So hopefully I'm going to give you some insights on how you can be friendly and get value from working with your friends in marketing, and really help lean into those conversations as well. So obviously I've already been introduced by the wonderful Tally. Again, mentioned the fan club, so bonus points if anybody can recognize the band on this picture. But after my early days as a president of a fan club, I spent a few years working in the video games industry, where I was part of developing the IP for Dark Souls. So again, if there's any gamers in the room, which was actually one of the first games which his marketing strategy was very much community-led. So the prepare to die tagline, if there's any gamers in the room, kind of really came from community fan working and kind of all of that co-creation and collaboration as well. I spent a few years working for Lithium, Chorus, rest in peace, where I was helping developing some of the thought leadership around community management and some of the certification programs as well. After that, I spent a few years working at a company called Blue Prism. I was there for 6 years, and I head up the CX team. We won a CMX award a few years ago for some of the great stuff that we were doing. Very proud of that. And as mentioned, most recently worked at Reddit to try and help bring some marketing goodness in some of the community programs. But right now, very much in a consulting role and helping, again, bridge the gap between the great things and the great power of what marketing can do, what community can do for marketing. So I understand that marketing can have a bit of a bad rep. I know that a lot of marketing people don't understand the value of humans and community, but I also want to make sure that everybody in the room here understands some of the foundations of what marketing is and maybe dispel some of the myths of how we can perceive marketing. So back to basics, marketing one-on-one and the marketing opportunity. So as I mentioned, marketing is often seen as the jazz hands, the people that create the sparklies and the glitter. But the reality, or an acquisition channel really, but the reality is marketing is a strategic function within an organization. And one of the kind of basic framework that is often used to try and explain what marketing is the 4Ps. 4Ps, which is, again, from a guy called Cotter, and I will take you through them right now. So the 4Ps very simply starts with product. So marketing will have a strategic role in defining what is it that you're selling? How are you going to talk about what you're selling? What are the feature functionalities and what is the value to the customer? Price. How much do you sell the product for? What are the competitors selling it for? What's the value and kind of the transaction happening in all of that? Place. How will my product be sold? How is that selling process and that selling and buying journey going to look like? And then finally, promotion. How will people find out about it? So I'm sure that just looking at the 4Ps here, all of you community experts are kind of looking at that and I already think it's like, oh yeah, I could see where community can add value in this. I can see where, some of the great things that the people in my community are doing can actually really help. So again, that's a very good starting point. Obviously, if you've got examples or ideas and thoughts, please just use the chat. I don't want to feel lonely speaking on my screen. So yeah, let's add a bit of community magic, right? Let's imagine what would happen if we added a bit of community pizzazz and human-led interactions into some of those 4Ps. So the product, insight, right? Community is such a great source of insight and conversation and passion of how people are using it, helping each other. Obviously, there's ways of formalizing that with an ideation program, product research, hackathons, for example. And again, the value. People feel like they belong. There's that sense of belonging. You got quicker, time to market, better insights. I'm going to spend a bit more time on ideation in a minute. Price, again, insights, value, perception. How do people see the value in what you're doing? The insights piece is there, but you can also use a community as a sounding board to understand where are some of the snagging points, how can we shape that product, that price proposition as well. It's a great way of making sure that the ROI is articulated in a way that they can then kind of really get the value of the product that you're selling. The place, a community has to be embedded in the journey from the selling point where you can kind of really see the transparent conversations of people using the product and again replying to the post-sale journey of like the onboarding, the platform adoption. How do you integrate the community, the conversations, the programs into every step of the journey, which again is a great way to show the transparency, to show that you're having honest conversations, the faster adoption and a streamlined experience. Again, I often see communities sit in a silo, but it should be part of the conversation. Again, you're speaking to marketing. One of my bigger door openers in my previous role when I was like, hey, did you know that 30% of visitors on the community are actually prospects? That got me a lot of attention from some of my peers in demand generation who are like, oh yeah, I think there's something we can do there. And last but not least, promotion. Obviously, community, great opportunity for storytelling, amplification of customer voices through user-generated content, advocacy. And again, the value there is being able to do social proof that's more than those stale case studies. I should not be saying stale. I used to own a lot of those, but it's an opportunity to really diversify how you tell the story, the voices, and where they kind of sit as part of the kind of customer journey as well, but also increase trust, right? It's real stories by real people instead of marketing glossed stories there. So 4Ps, you get it, right? Marketing strategy more than the jazz hands, and it's quite obvious where community can add and bring value. So I apologize in advance for for you guys having this song stuck in your head for the rest of the day. And I get that what I'm showing you is very high level, maybe a bit nebulous. So I'm going to share you some examples of some of the things that I did at my previous organization and really what can happen when we bring community and marketing together. So looking at my previous organization where I was heading up the CX team, customer experience team, I was reporting into the CMO. We broke down my team's responsibilities into these buckets. These weren't people, they weren't even teams, but they were kind of buckets of work responsibilities. And we had the more traditional marketing activities, which again, life cycle, social proof, communications, and we had the more kind of community and infrastructure pieces. Advocacy and advisory, we separated because they're different motivations. Advocacy is like, I'm championing your product, whereas advisory is like, I'm providing feedback. Not mutually exclusive, but because the motivations were different, we structured the programs a bit differently. We underpinned everything that we did with data, voice of the customer, and insight. We wanted to make sure that we were able to leverage everything that was being said and done as a way for the business to make better decisions. Obviously, we had the programs that underpinned that, and again, helped being organized, coordinated, and orchestrated. And ultimately, everything that we did fed into departmental goals and objectives. So, yes, we were in marketing. Obviously, it's the whole point of here. But what I'm trying to say is it should never just be a silo. It really works when it's cross functional, and it really works when you understand the KPIs that these teams work towards. So, as much as we were a marketing team at that point, community was really embedded in everything that the rest of the marketing team did, but also within the other parts of the business. And again, how do you prove the value? So the way we did it is we really try to align our KPIs as a community team, as a CX team, to the KPIs of the rest of the business and measure alongside them. Like again, we wanted to understand it's like, okay, marketing, what is top of mind for you? And often it is pipeline and revenue. To be honest, my CMO at the time, he's like, Charlotte, as long as you don't cost me a lot of money to operate and you can prove that you drive value and that you can influence the pipeline and the revenue, you do what you want. And is it necessarily the right thing to do to prove the value of community? No. But it's what got me a seat at the table. It's what helped me really drive the conversation of like, I need a lot of money because I want to, do more things to help grow the community. But I had to speak in a language that he understood. I was able to say, hey, we're saving money by getting people not going to the support center. We're actually increasing the adoption. We've got people using our products more. So those are ways that again got me a seat at the table because I was able to speak the same language as the leaders that were there. So let's look into some of the examples as well. I mentioned ideation before. So here is an example where community can help influence product and pricing strategy within marketing. So product marketing for me is one of the biggest untapped areas where community can really drive some value. One of the big things that we did is leverage the voice of the community to build the value proposition. How do we go to market with AI is understanding how the people using it, how are people perceiving it, and then really bring that messaging into the value proposition. And obviously the data, if the data is backed by voice of customer and stats, that is extremely powerful. But then how does it influence the roadmap? But also then how do you communicate the roadmap back to people and saying the features that we're releasing in our roadmap now, those are the ones that you asked for. So that is again a place where you can bring a lot of value into a marketing organization. So how we did it is that we built bridges. We were friends with obviously the product marketing team and the product team, and we made sure that this ideation principles were embedded into everything as part of the product lifecycle. And we worked together, and that's what made it work. Um, in the 4 years that we had the program, we had 800 ideas submitted, 100 implemented, and we made noise about it when they were implemented. We had 25 co-creation projects a year where we would be like, hey, we're thinking about launching a new feature. Help us make sure we're doing the right thing, and improved insight and accelerate decision making. The awards, a bit more jazz handsy, a bit more traditional marketing. Um, if we're looking at the 4 Ps, this is something that had a direct impact on place and promotion. So for the awards here, we built the program alongside the community, both in terms of infrastructure, so all the communications, all of the post content, and the way we promoted it, the way we built it, the way we structured the program was made with the community, the people, the infrastructure, and the programs. So it just didn't sit alongside and wasn't a silo. And again, it's a great platform to do that. Um, it generated shared ownership. It helped amplify. It helped them feel like they were part of building this and that they were part of, you know, creating the validity of the awards program. Legitimized, that is a really hard word to say, legitimize both the process and the destination. And again, as I said, embedding yourself into the processes and the systems and the way that they prove the value, we're able to prove that, hey, people that are engaged in the awards program are people that buy more. Is it an exact science? I think there's a bias. If you're engaged on community, there's probably more chances of you being more successful. Yes, but I was speaking the language of my execs, and that was a way that I was able to get more funding for the awards the year after by proving, hey, the awards were influencing revenue. So again, this is just an example there. And ultimately also helped create 150 entries, which was a gold mine for social proof. Again, social proof. Next one here. Um, Social proof. people often see like advocacy and references as case studies, but the reality is, how can you use the great things that are happening in the community, the great people and the champions and advocates, how can you amplify it, but also how can you create content that's more than just a sales tool? It's tools that can help people on the journey, can help with adoption, and it's always so much more powerful when it comes from the people themselves than when it is marketing manufactured. And what we can do as a marketing community team, or whoever we are in this room, is our role is really to orchestrate this in a way that can serve the business. So understand how we can get the good things in the right places while protecting the community and making sure the members don't feel like that they're performing monkeys. So in practice, that really looked like integrating all of our advocacy efforts in the life cycle and providing the people, the members, the platform, the opportunity to really share their voice if they wanted to. And that's how I said we separated advocacy and advisory, because some people really wanted to kind of be up there, and that's fine. But some people just wanted to provide feedback. And we had to be able to create a space that was safe for both of them to do that. And what did that impact? I mean, it made people look really freaking cool. It helped them get, more visibility internally. It helped us create content that we'd have never been able to do if it was fully marketing led and marketing owned. So again, I think that that's a great opportunity to look at. It can be stats, it can be quotes. Obviously, you want to make sure that you do it in a way that is respectful for the members. But again, it's a way of expanding the voice of your community and support your business, especially in your kind of marketing goals as well. So I mentioned social proof and I mentioned advocacy, and obviously we are a crew of marketing people, community people here, and not marketing people. And there is this kind of not clash happening, but you've got advocacy programs, which are kind of like champions, reference programs, and community programs, and all the programs in the world. And we actually shut down our advocacy program. The reason why we did that is because everything that we were doing, we try to streamline the back end processes. We try to bring people on a journey with us. And having a separate program actually created a barrier for entry. It was an extra step that people had to do that didn't bring value. So we worked really, really closely with the CS team, and we integrated everything that was around identifying potential champions, logging active references, trying to see how people were engaging in marketing activities. It was built in how the CS team worked on a day to day. I am not going to do a speech and spiel on how Gainsight was absolutely game changing for that, because I could spend probably half an hour just gushing over how cool it is when you got the systems that work together. But again, leverage the tools that you already have, leverage the processes that you already have. You want to make your customers' life easier. Getting them to sign up for 5 or 6 different programs is not going to way that you're going to be able to do that. So what I shared here was a 6-year journey, right? It started off as me. It's a very small company trying to figure things out. We ended up as a team of 15. Um, this was not built just me. It was really a team of amazing humans, passionate people across community, CS, and marketing. It was about breaking down these silos and working together. So again, if you are to work with marketing, but even just cross-functionally, I think that whomever you work with, these are all things that are important. Few kind of nuggets of wisdom kind of to end the day with. I also do want to say that you don't have to be part of marketing to be able to influence these things. Again, understanding what makes marketing people tick, understanding the opportunity of marketing is a great first start there, and working together and collaborating and doing all of these things. Ultimately, I think that the future is cross-functional. It's not about who sits where and who does what. So, a few wisdom tidbits. Understand and know the KPIs. If you've got somebody who's like, meh, if it doesn't influence ARR pipeline or something else or CTR or whatever, ask questions like, what is ARR? Annual recurring revenue. If it's ARR, influenced annual recurring revenue, um, understand what it is, how it's measured, understand how the back end is working as well, and try and see if there's a way that you can then integrate into what you're doing. Which leads to my next point, is plug into the stack and processes. I love shiny new tools, but shiny new tools create silos. That's one of the issues. You need to make sure that they're adopted. You have to make things super simple. And again, like I mentioned with the CS team, try and understand where their processes are and try and see how you can embed yourself and add value to what's already existing instead of creating extra work for people. And then complement and don't duplicate, right? Again, it's around talking to people. If marketing are doing something that you think you could help, don't go and do something else that you think might be better. Why don't you just work together and see what works? Think customer first. To the point of the advocacy program, you don't want barriers. You want to make it super easy. Think Netflix. When was the last time you opened a support ticket for Netflix? You didn't, because it's streamlined, it's straightforward. You know what to do. When you're thinking about your journeys, your programs, your processes, don't think about it as an org chart, but think about it as a customer journey. Ultimately, they don't care that you're in marketing, customer success, or support. They want to have a relationship with you and communicate with you. Build credibility through partnership. Again, this is not an ego play. This is not about you. This is about making sure you're doing what's best and advocating for the voice of the customer. So share insights. Be like, hey, did you know that there's this happening on the community? Just this morning, I had somebody from my former team say this, hey, we got the community to help, troubleshoot a critical issue that we've had. Those are great ways of building bridges. Last but not least, experiment and adapt. Try things. Some things are going to work. Some things are going to bomb, but you won't know if you don't measure and if you don't try. And innovation really comes from testing your approach. I mean, again, there's a lot of things I've done that haven't worked, but what makes a difference is learning what didn't work and then trying to not do it or doing it a bit differently. But then again, having that measurement, having that impact, then can help progress things as well. So we're coming to time. So a few parting words. I know that, community is going through a big change right now with the platforms, with AI, with, different vendors being like, ooh, community customer success and ooh, community marketing. It doesn't matter, but what you do is strategic. And what's important is for you to understand how what you can do can be part of business infrastructure, which is how you really help prove the value. So I think my main call to action to you is, how do you make what you do more visible and how does it align with the value and the business needs as well? And again, marketing is a good place to do that. But I also want to acknowledge that not all marketing people get what community is, and that's okay, because you can try and have the conversation understanding what makes them tick and try and translate the value of these human-led conversations into what is important to them. And this is also coming from a often very frustrated marketeer who gets really annoyed when marketing people are like, you can market to existing customers the same way that you market to prospects, which just don't get me started. Could be around for another 45 minutes. So again, just think about it, understand where people are, what is top of people's minds, and how you can help influence that. So I hope that the last 20 minutes have been valuable for you and have helped inspire you. Think about how you can start building bridges with marketing and understand them a bit better. Obviously, happy to continue the conversation. My LinkedIn is there, and my contact details should be on my profile as well. So yeah, I think we've got 5 minutes for questions, Tally.
Yes, thank you so much, Charlotte. That was really insightful. As a community builder with a background in marketing, definitely share a lot of your sentiments and frustrations. We do have a question in the Q&A from Steve asking, how did your B2B experience, Blue Prism, differ from your B2C experience at Reddit?
That is a really good question. I actually, controversial, I think I actually prefer working in the B2B space. And I think that is just because of the nature of people. I think that people that engage in B2B communities do it because they understand that it's kind of the betterment of their profession and kind of what they're due. Whereas I think in a B2C space, and especially in a space that is very passionate, such as Reddit, you probably don't have the same level of structure and I'm not going to say that people aren't professional, but obviously working with volunteer moderators is very different than working with professionals. And I think that was one of the areas there. I was working in the community team as well. And I was really working on how do you build like marketing infrastructure, and I think it's just very different. And it's again understanding where the value is, and I think that it's understanding where the value drivers and what the priorities are, and those are not going to be the same for a B2B, which again is proving the value, whereas Reddit is going to be more in terms of like the experience and the kind of retention, and we were very much focused on the moderator experience there as well.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. And very interesting, honestly, to hear people who have worked in both the preferences and how they differ. I feel like not everyone understands the nuances there. So thank you for that. And then one last question. You kind of brought this up throughout your conversation, but I guess I would say what's kind of like the biggest tip that you can provide when you're coming up with that pushback from whether it's the marketing team, the product team, the executives on transferring all of the insights that you want to share so that they can actually use them themselves. What would be sort of your number one best tip to do that?
Don't try and push a boulder uphill. Um, I spent a lot of my last few years really trying to convince people. And if people don't want to listen to you, then you're just wasting your energy. And if you know that what you're doing is right, and if you've got the receipts and you're being strategic, like what we did, people are going to turn around and there's going to be like, hey, I'm not going to name a department, but there was one department that is very traditionally used within community. And I was like, there's something that we can do here. There's something that we can bring a lot of value. And they were adamant that like, no, they didn't want to. So I tried, we tried. And every time, every few months we tried, but they were just like, no. So we then shifted our focus to the departments, the leaders that did have interest. Um, because again, that's where the collaboration is going to happen. And ultimately, again, it's great when you get to prove people wrong. But it's so much easier when they find out themselves. And you can be a bit smug in your corner, right? But I think it's just not worth pushing boulders uphill. So put your energy where it's valuable and where it's respected. And again, I think that if marketing do not want to hear the value that community can bring, I think it's just sending little reminders every now and again and being like, hey, maybe this might help. This might be a value, because at some point somebody's going to listen, and transformation doesn't always have to come from the top. You might one day find a product marketing manager who is going to be interested and want to collaborate with you, and that could be a great place to start. So obviously, depending on where you're in the org, you don't always have to go at the top. You can kind of go top down or middle up, or middle, whatever the middle one is.
Hmm. Definitely. Thank you so much. Oh, it seems we have one more popping in, and then we're going to end on that note. Um, we have a question. What are your favorite mediums or avenues for community marketing in terms of events, merch, digital ads?
Mm, I think it depends. It depends on what you're trying to do. I think it really depends on what your objectives are and what your outcome is looking at doing. I think that merch is a great way of making people feel special. I'm going to plug one of my favorite platforms of all time. Being somebody in marketing for the last 15 years, merch is the most painful thing ever. We had a platform called Reach Desk, and it was an absolute freaking lifesaver because it just helped streamline everything. It helped tie it into our marketing stack and influence. So it's like people I send gift cards to influences revenue. This is a great way of proving myself. So Reach Desk, absolutely love them. But I saw merch as a thank you and a way of making people feel like they belong. Events, again, I think is a great way of bringing people into there, but it's about being smart at events. So when we do events, one of the things that we did as a standard is we would kind of do like vox pops. So we would like kind of do mini interviews, we would do pictures. So we would always have the opportunity to capture content for social proof. And that's again is having these events where, yeah, we're getting these people together, but how can the goodness that we get from the event, how can we feed that into the different pieces there? So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charlotte. And I
No
share
worries.
Francisco's sentiment that your photo is awesome. We really appreciate your time and we appreciate your insights. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity and good luck for the rest of the event.